Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Sine Institute Fellows Seminar. My name is Sarah Carney, and I am a junior here studying public relations and political science. It is my privilege to welcome you to today's Sine event. The Sine Institute serves as a space ripe with collaboration, bringing together unique perspectives from the public, private, academic, nonprofit, and journalism sectors. It fosters dialogue, drives policy innovation, and champions nonpartisan solutions. At its core, the Institute is where American University comes together to convene, communicate, and collaborate, paving the way for meaningful changes. Today, we are honored to have Sine Fellow Tara Palmeri and American University alum Polson Kanneth join us this evening for a conversation about Tara's esteemed career in political journalism. Tara Palmeri is a renowned political correspondent and newly independent reporter, a precedent she is setting for the future of journalism. Known for her fearless reporting, Tara has built her career uncovering the behind-the-scenes stories that shape Washington, D.C. and the political landscape. She has worked as a White House correspondent for ABC News and has reported on major global events, including Brexit and the Greek financial crisis during her tenure at Politico Europe. She is also the host of the podcast, Somebody's Gotta Win, where she delves into the high-stakes world of political campaigns, offering deep analysis and insider perspectives on elections and power struggles shaping the country. Our moderator, Polson Kanneth, is an AU alum and current executive director at Sine. He previously worked as ABC's senior editorial producer and is a self-declared AU men's basketball fan. His first-hand knowledge of the journalism world in DC makes this seminar a great opportunity for first-hand learning from two bright journalistic minds. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Tara Palmeri and Polson Kanneth.
Tara told me not to mess this up. But I've done my homework.
Oh no, this is like a dossier. I'm worried about what you've pulled up. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, okay? Especially if it hasn't.
These all have your quotes. So.
If it's self-published, you can trust it, but otherwise, I wouldn't. So Polson and I have been friends for a long time.
15 years?
Yes, we have been friends since. I think I called up your boss at the time, Diane Sawyer. And I had some story about a rivalry between her and Christiane Amanpour.
I think it's Katie Couric.
Oh, I thought this was over the nuclear power plants in Japan and how they were fighting to get there first within the network about who would be there to cover it. And Polson so brilliantly said, "I've got an idea. Why don't you meet Diane?" And I was like, okay. And so you brought me to...
all I remember from that lunch is both of you had salads and I had a burger and fries, and then all of you kept picking my French fries off.
Because that's what we do. I have one thing in common with Diane Sawyer, the legend.
We had an AU alum that connected us as well.
Right, yeah.
And said you guys should meet. So.
Right.
And here we are today.
Yes, and then Diane Sawyer sent my grandmother a picture of herself signed, so that was a thing you did back in the day, right?
I still like a good autograph.
An autograph, exactly.
I still haven't gotten yours, so.
Yeah, well, I'm working on it. I still have to get the pictures and everything. I'll send it.
So wait, is this about me or is this about you?
I think we should establish that we have a friendship so that we make it known that this is a very biased interview in the sense that you love me and you have not been digging up dirt on me in this very thick packet.
Well, there are very few people I would do this for. And,
okay.
And also our friend Lee back there from development, who put as when they send the big squeeze to, make you do things. And Amy JC, of course. So great to be here at AU at the Sine Institute, and thank you to SOC, Career Center, Alumni Association. I don't know any other groups I've forgotten.
KPU. I don't know if they're. No, I don't think they're involved. No.
But we still like KPU.
Yeah, Kennedy.
But this is about you.
Okay, sure. Shoot, let's go.
So, the one thing I love about Tara is, it's like a ball of energy, right? But, you came from Italian, Polish roots, went to Catholic school, from Jersey.
Yep.
I read somewhere that they filmed some of The Sopranos by where.
Yes, they filmed it in one of my best friend's pork stores. That's what we call them, delis in Jersey.
Blue collar.
Yeah, they tried to cast my dad in The Sopranos because he looks like a mobster. Yeah, I'm serious, as an extra.
And first to graduate with a 4-year degree?
Yes, my mom is from Poland. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. So yeah, this was a big deal for them.
So what was that like? How did you get here? You said you didn't know journalists until you came to
American,
AU.
yeah, I
And
had
it was
never
Nick
met
Clooney.
one. Yeah, I
George
met
Clooney's dad, who was a
Yes.
professor at SOC.
Yes, Nick Clooney, he was a great professor. Yeah, I think I really just wanted to get out of the town that I was from, and I really was always listening to like politics and watching the news. I was watching CNN. I don't know if you guys are probably too young to remember this, but they started playing like wars on television. You could actually watch a war play out on TV on CNN. And so, I come from...
Which war was this?
It was the war in Yugoslavia.
Okay.
I mean, that was the one that
So
I
was that
first
90s?
remember. Yeah, and there was the one in the Middle East. I'm blanking on it right now.
The Iraq War?
No, the first invasion.
The Gulf?
Yeah, exactly. So I come from a family of like traumatized war victims, and all they want to do is watch the war on CNN because my mom's family is from Poland. My grandmother was in a camp in Hamburg, and like this is what they were used to. And so I'm watching it on TV. I'm pretending I'm like a war correspondent underneath my bed with my karaoke machine. I'm recording it, and I'm just watching all this journalism. My dad's obsessed with like right-wing, talk radio, so I've got to listen to him and his stuff. And just like there's so much media around me, and everyone's always talking about it. Like everyone's watching media, they're reading it, and they called me the Jersey Journal when I was a kid because I was literally just like picking up information in the neighborhood and then like sharing it with the neighbors. So I had it.
Copies of the Jersey Journal?
It was actually never in print. It was just relayed. But I do have so many notebooks from as young as like 5 years old. I have, as soon as I could start writing, I would say like, hi, like, dear diary, it was nice out today. And I would spy on people in it, and I would write in there. And I have these, I still write in a journal. To this day, I write in a journal all the time. And so I just think it was in my DNA. But I was never encouraged or told to be a journalist. It just wasn't a thing. Like, it was too glamorous of a job. Like, to my parents, that was like telling them, I want to be an actor. You had to get a professional degree, and you had to have like to my dad, he would always say to me, Tara, go be a teacher, you'll get the summers off, and you get great benefits. And that's great. I admire teachers, and that's what they should do. And that's great, but like to my father, like I probably somehow disappointed him by not having like 3 kids and being married and having a normal job.
Not about the 3 kids, but
Yeah.
more about like...
He called my mom the chief cook and bottle washer, and I wondered if that was a joke or not, or he really meant it. So it was like a very old school, like Italian American. Like his mother never worked. My mom did work. Actually, she was very ambitious, and she did get a 2-year degree, and she works as a legal assistant. But like, she just didn't have what I had coming from like Soviet Poland, and. So I had the opportunity to, they put me into Catholic schools, and I took every opportunity I could, and I got straight A's, and I actually got a scholarship to American, and I came here and I visited, and I sort of just knew. I actually secretly applied to American because my parents were so set on me going to Rutgers, where I had a full scholarship. So I had secretly applied on the Common App, which I don't know if that still exists, but it was free.
Okay.
Yeah, it was free, so I didn't have to ask for a credit card. And so.
Credit card, we had checks back then.
Okay, there you go. This is 2005 when I graduated from high school, so a little bit before that. So I apply on the Common App. I had met somebody on a vacation. I had gone to American, and I had known that it was a good school for journalism, and my guidance counselor said, why don't you be a journalist? And I was like, that's not a real job. And she was like, no, you can do that. And I applied, and I got in, and there was a merit scholarship, so my mom actually took me down here. We went out for a day trip on the Amtrak, and I remember the sun, like there was snow on the quad, and it was glistening, and it was like, I felt like I was in some magical place. And I never felt that way when I went to go visit Rutgers. I just felt like there was something about American, and my mom saw it in my eyes. And I was like, Mom, I have to go to school here. And I'd already been accepted. I was like, I can't not go to school here. I have to go to school here. And she called my dad, I remember, and she was like, Peter, we're going to have to send her to school there. And so that's the rest is history, and here we are.
And when, like, you know, being from like a small town in New Jersey, and you have like New York City in your background, like
Yes.
in the backdrop, like you can see it, but you're not like there.
Yeah, the
Did
big
it
city.
feel like I want to kind of do my own thing, take that risk, be a journalist, try to make it into New York City?
Oh, I never wanted to live in New York because I had terrifying experiences in New York every time we were there. In the 80s, whenever you parked your car in New York City, you always came back to the car and the windows were smashed in, and you had no, like, they would always, and I'm talking about like parking around Broadway, like in the 50s at the time in Midtown. You always had, the glove compartment was like a disaster. The number of traumatizing experiences I had in New York City, I was like, I never want to go there. I hated it. I used to be like, it smells like smoke. And my mom, one of her closest friends lived there, so she used to drag me there all the time. No, I was really obsessed with becoming like a journalist in Washington. And I was not that interested in New York. It's something that I actually, even after college, I wanted to stay in Washington. It wasn't until I got hired at the New York Post that I moved back to New York, and I was kind of reluctant to do so. I really liked Washington, but yeah, sure, having big city dreams. But it also meant that when you were 16, you always had like a fake ID, and whenever you could get into New York, you did, or you took the bus, because there was like
So you had a fake ID.
Oh yeah, it was my mom's ID actually, and then we scrubbed out the name. It was really easy at the time to make a fake Jersey license. I'm telling you guys everything, but this is the truth, you know, the full story. And yeah, so we would go out in the nightclubs, but you could at the time. Now, I mean, try to get into a
Did you use
nightclub.
a fake ID here at AU?
Yeah, I did actually. It was my cousin, because my cousin looked like me and she was 2 years older, so I had her ID.
Well, I got to bring it back to the conversation.
No, I'm not saying you
careers.
should fake. No, listen, I'm not saying you should do this, but when I think the statute of limitation is passed, okay, at this point.
I'm not so, you know, you've taken risks. I think as you're one of the few people I know that's taking so many risks, and don't look at my paper.
Oh no.
I found this quote from you. When you were working at Politico in Europe, in Brussels,
Yes.
they hired a gutsy girl who worked at Page 6 to come through and destroy this town. That is Tara Palmeri talking about Brussels and
Yeah.
the EU.
They did. They wanted
So tell me about the risks and how hard it is to take risks, especially right now in journalism, because you've done podcasts, you've kind of done journalistic startups.
Yes, I'm definitely an entrepreneur at heart, and I didn't realize that was a word, but like I like being on the front lines of things. I like going to risky places. I think that actually makes like a good journalist, like the person who's going to run into the buyer, like the burning building, head towards the bomb. Like I remember when I was at the airport, when a bomb went off at the Brussels airport, and I started running towards the airport. Most people would be running away from it, but like that was the reason that CNBC called me. And they saw my tweets, they saw the news I was breaking, and they were like, would you go on air? And that was the first real opportunity for me to have a reporting experience on television. And by the end of the day, they had offered me an on-air position as a contributor. But like my instinct was always to run towards the fire. And yes, when they hired me to go to Politico Europe, which by the way, I had never even been to Brussels before, I have a EU passport because my mother was born in Poland and she became American when I was like, I guess in 2001 after 9/11, she decided she wanted to become American to vote for George Bush, I learned recently. So I didn't know anything. I showed up with 3 suitcases. I left my job at the New York Post when people, pretty like big name people said to me, you're making a huge mistake. Everyone's going to forget about you while you're in Brussels. No one cares about the EU, which is true. But I just so happened to be in the EU at a time of great disruption. I was covering the Greek financial crisis. I was covering Brexit. I was covering major terrorism attacks that were happening often in Brussels and France. And then I got this opportunity to become more visible in the US through CNBC. Plus, Politico Europe ended up being a huge success, and people saw that expansion, and they were like, this is something. And yes, this article, that the title of the article, it was by The Guardian, and it was called, Can Politico make Brussels sexy?
Yes.
Because it was such a boring town, right? And the truth is that they did hire me with this tabloid background, not having really much of a like institutional knowledge about European diplomacy or foreign policy. which I eventually got and learned, because they thought, she has good reporting instincts. She's going to break news. It's going to be splashy, and it'll be different than more of the same. And I think that's like what I've always tried to do. I think in every industry, not just in journalism, like some people are rewarded by disruption. I am a disruptor, and like I've always been. And whenever I feel like I'm stagnating professionally, my instinct is to flee that situation because I want to keep trying new things, and it is risky, and you can fail, and like I think about this all the time, but like most of the things I do, I'm not great at when I start, and you have to kind of be
It's
okay.
hard to admit that.
Oh my God, I know it. I mean, I know today I'm not great at what I'm doing. There are at least 5 things I'm doing right now that I'm not great at. And last week I took, I had a meeting with somebody who's pretty high up in like the social media world, and he was like, you should be in a studio when you're doing your podcast. Like, it would just be better. And I'm like, yeah, it's more expensive. I don't have the money right now for that. Or like, but it just doesn't look right. And it's like, I know, but you know what? Like, that's a goal for a month or 2 from now. But for today, this is what I'm good at. And I know that tomorrow I'm going to be better as a writer, as a podcaster than I was yesterday. So like, if you can start anything knowing that you're going to suck at it, but in 6 months you'll be better, I think that was the best advice I ever got from Bill Simmons, who I call the pod, what do I call him? The podfather, like the Godfather, because he really is. I mean, he's given me some really great advice. He's also my boss on the Ringer Network where this is airing. But he did say to me, you're not going to be good at this for the first 6 months. But the truth is, the difference between becoming good at anything in life is 6 months. If you can stick to anything in life for 6 months, I believe that you will succeed at it.
Is there a level of fear you had? Like, when you packed up, left New York, went to Brussels, 0 sources, 0 connections?
I have this thing where I'm like okay with jumping off a cliff, and then I'm okay. But then I realize, oh my God, it's really hard to fly. Oh my God, I'm halfway up, but then it's really.
From like, when you harken back to like New Jersey.
Yeah.
Like growing, like you wanted to leave that.
Yes.
That small town, you wanted to go somewhere different.
Probably. I mean, I never felt like very safe ever in my life. Like, I know that sounds kind of a weird thing to say, but like in my home and my life, I just felt like it was always kind of like there was always disruption around me. So I never felt like.
So you embraced it.
Yeah, I didn't know any other way. Like that's how I was raised. I was raised around people like coming from an immigrant family. They were just trying to figure it out. Like my dad and his family, like everybody was just trying to figure it out. We weren't like, we were just trying to get our bearings. So when you live in a world where nobody's really great at anything and we're just trying to figure it out every day, you're willing to take more risks, I think. Although, I don't know, my parents are kind of risk averse compared to me. And I think maybe that's a luxury they gave me, that I can take more risks.
That's like I sense some of that in my own family. That's like an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
It can be like an immigrant thing.
They're willing.
Risk averse.
They're risk averse, but then you realize that you were raised by wolves, so you're willing to take risks. That's
I'm
basically.
not Amy Eisman in the back knows I don't like taking risks. She has known me for like 25 years. She knows that I will not take a risk. I'm not a risk taker.
Really?
This is risky.
How do you
for me,
make?
right?
How,
This is my risk.
How do you make it to the level that you're at right now without taking a single risk in your life? Like, you're taking risks,
Okay,
you just don't know they're risks.
I think I'll have to be. I think I'm more cautious about my risks.
Calculated.
Yeah. I like to say cautious because I think of every scenario first.
I didn't think, though, going to Brussels was a risk, because to me, I felt that I was stagnating. I had made it to exactly where I wanted to make it at the New York Post. I was at City Hall. I was in the same room as Maggie Haberman and Ben Smith and Annie Carney and Michael Grimbaum and Michael Barbero, and it was the A team of all the top, like basically the above the fold, the New York Times, the New York Post. It was all the top people, and that was my dream. And I had gotten there, and once I made it to that mountain, I was like, okay, what's next? And not that I had made it to their level, but I just made it to the point where I was like, I got here, this is great. But now, and they moved on to different things, but I knew that like I wanted a new adventure, and I also knew that the only way for me to leave the New York Post and to make it to that next step in my career in the direction that I wanted to go to, I needed some sort of like finishing school or something like that. And I always wanted to be a foreign correspondent. Like, I was hiding under my bed covering wars because I had this desire to go see.
In New Jersey.
Yeah, because I had the desire for adventure. I had the desire for a new experience. Now, once I got there, I will tell you, I called my old editor in the second month, and I was like, I think I made a mistake. I'm watching Netflix. I'm bored. I don't have friends yet. Luckily, one of my friends came to visit, and he was really fun and took me out, and I made a ton of friends in one weekend, and that whole like sob fest was over. Another reason why, if you can get through anything for 6 months, you'll be fine. I remember, like at my new job, my boss, Carrie Budoff Brown, saw me in the dry cleaner or the laundromat reading a like EU for Dummies book, and she just thought that was like the funniest thing. But I really didn't know anything about what I was covering, and it was difficult.
So was that sort of like a swashbuckling pirate?
Yeah, it was fun.
You know?
I watched the movie Foreign Correspondent before I went there. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And it was kind of about this like gutsy woman who, you know, just went to Europe and chased the story. And I just always had a feeling like if you don't understand the story, just chase it anyway and you'll figure it out. I mean, we're resourceful. That's what that is what we as journalists are good at, is figuring shit out, being resourceful.
Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
This isn't CNN.
No, we can say, I'm saying for the
Oh.
student audience. I'm just looking at it.
They're adults, right? I think we're adults in here. You can raise your hand if you feel comfortable.
We'll edit it out. So we talked about risks, entrepreneurship,
Right.
startup culture. You've taken the biggest risk recently.
Is it?
You're starting up your own thing. You have what, 8 staff members now? People.
Yeah, not staff, but like contract people. Contract.
What's the name of your company?
Oh, yeah, not right now.
You say an initial and then, you know.
Yeah, I'll disclose that another day. But here's the thing: the risk to me was staying again in the same place, because I think in 10 years from now, I'll look back on this moment. I'm 37, and I think in 10 years from now, I'll look back on it and be like, why didn't I start something on my own sooner? And I believe I'm investing in myself every day, and I'm investing in a company that's going to be bigger, and I have a vision. And I think that I am in a unique situation where I don't have children, and so I'm not like married or supporting someone, and I'm finally at a stage in my life where I feel confident enough that I could do this. So it kind of everything blended together. Plus, I'd spent the last year in a new media venture doing a podcast, already taking a pretty big risk by leaving a pretty well-known masthead Politico to go to a place called Puck, where when I started working there, people were like, what's Puck? But they knew who I was. They knew Tara Palmeri was. So it was just the natural next step. And everybody who was doing what I'm doing right now looked like they were having a lot more fun than the people who were working in major media organizations. Like, to me, going to a newsroom like the ones I've worked in before, there wasn't a single one of them. Like, there wasn't a single network that looked exciting to me. There wasn't a single cable news network that excited me. There wasn't a single newspaper that excited me. To me, they were all just trying to figure out how to swim. And I'm like, here's a speedboat. Plus, I mean, I have the partnership with YouTube, which is really helpful. I've got a show on Spotify. I'm reaching an audience that isn't going to those traditional news sources anymore. I'm meeting an audience where they are and where it's growing, not in a place that's sinking. So I actually think this isn't a risk. I think this is survival at this point in the way that the media landscape looks. I think leaving a big city newspaper to go to Europe was probably a bigger risk. I think leaving Politico, maybe to go to Puck was a risk. I don't know. But I had my colleagues at Politico at Puck are very like esteemed and had big brand names. But you know, it wasn't like I was in charge of the leadership there. I was just a writer among them, and I had some equity. But I'm in charge of the leadership. Like, I know what I'm making. I know where I'm going, and I really like it. I'm having a great time. I haven't looked back once, which is like the best feeling of all. Because I think a lot of people worry before they take a risk or they make a jump. Am I going to look back and regret this? But this is like one of the few times in my life where I haven't had that call to my editor being like, I made a mistake, because I have had those moments in life. Yeah, it's a lot more responsibility, but like, it's you. Like, you are creating your own destiny. You sink or swim based on what you do. Some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. And like, for me, like, for me, I'm really enjoying it. So this hasn't felt like the biggest risk to me. I think other moments in my life have. I think there were, when I left Page Six, people said to me, how could you leave Page Six to go to the general assignment section to go be a runner and knock on doors and run around the country? Everyone will forget about you. Page Six is the place to be. And it's like, Page Six is so prestigious. And it's like, no, it's not for me. You just know when something isn't for you anymore. And I see the future and where it's going. And the future to me is new media. And the future is YouTube. The future isn't even YouTube. The present is YouTube. I am behind because I started last month. I wish I started 2 years ago. I wish I started 3 years ago. So that's where I'm at. And I think that other journalists are going to be following, and I'll be I guess you could call it a trailblazer in the sense that I'm a journalist that is taking it from a more, I'm really basing this on my reporting, whereas a lot of people have created content on YouTube based on opinion. That's been the predominant, Although there are some really great investigative journalists on YouTube, like Johnny Harris and others, but to see people jump from mainstream media to YouTube, it doesn't happen all the time.
What's a typical day like?
I wake up, I have a coffee, take the dog out, probably start bothering Jane over there in the corner. She's working for me as an assistant. She's killing it, and she actually helps me a lot with social media because she understands it, and it's her generation, Gen Z, that I'm really trying to attract and bring in because they are just on in these. This is the audience.
What are people getting wrong about social media right now?
I don't know. Honestly, I think the one thing that people like us are getting wrong is that you can go from TV news to social media and sound like and present like a TV anchor. People don't want that. It's just like they're not tuning into their phones to watch TV. They're tuning into their phones to watch a different type of programming, a raw program. Like if I told you, okay, you can watch Angelina Jolie sitting down for an interview with, I don't know, Deborah Norville, if she's still around, on TV and sitting across, and they have their moments and their shots. Or you can watch Angelina Jolie talking into her phone, maybe with a little less makeup on in her house. I bet you more people would want to watch Angelina Jolie in her house talking into her phone. It's like there is a moment right now where people just want authenticity, and they don't want the slickness. They don't want the production. Like, I noticed a difference in my numbers between talking into the phone and giving a short tidbit of news versus produced news. And when I talk into the phone, it just does better in the algorithm. People like it. It feels more real. They don't want highly produced content on their phone. Maybe they'll want it on TV, but they don't want it on their phones. And I think that's what all the networks are getting wrong, and they're wasting a lot of money on this. And they don't even want you to look like a TV correspondent on your phone. Like, they want to see what you wear in your house. They want to see your dog. Like, they want to see your life. Which can be very.
Is your dog in your?
I mean, I should integrate her more because she's definitely the cuter half. I mean, I would love to, but I think she'd crush it. Dog news, I really do. You can follow her on Pancetta. I think it's D DuPont. Every time we move, we change her handle. But yeah, you can follow her on Instagram. She's a hit. She's also open for sponsorships. But no, I'm joking. But not really. But but no, I do think though, they like to. Sometimes people are asking me about the dog, or because it's. And also in a time where we are in such a crisis of trust with the news business, when they feel like they know you, they're more likely to trust what you have to say in your reporting. Whereas if you are the news anchor sitting in a desk, thousands of miles away, looking perfect, sounding perfect, reading from a teleprompter, bright lighting, right everything, I mean, it doesn't translate in this world. And I also think that's why the podcasting format has become so popular, is because it's a time where people don't speak perfectly. Look at our president. If anything, the reality TV age has ushered this all in as we speak. The documentation of life, the reality TV, the vlogging that you see essentially on phones. we are in a moment right now where if the news industry doesn't catch up to this, they're going to lose people.
So what's been your most effective video, effective post?
Oh yeah, I can tell you that. I got like 1 million or something views on when I walked out of that. Do you remember that Trump rally, the last one at Madison Square Garden? I basically just looked into my phone and was like, that was some weird shit. And like, and it was.
Sorry.
I'm loving this.
Yeah, and I just said, okay, can I just go through all of the people that Trump just offended? And I just listed them off, and I said, okay, but here's the problem. Pennsylvania, here's this. And this is what they're saying now. Boom, and I'm walking out, lighting sucks, I'm walking out here, it's loud, you can hear the cityscape, you know that I was just in there. Millions and millions of people shared it on TikTok. It was crazy. Like, that was my best thing, and it was.
How many social media platforms are you
The only one I think I'm not on is Truth Social. Oh no, I am on Truth Social, but I don't post on it.
I don't have to log into Truth Social.
Yeah, I'm more of a stalker on Truth Social because Trump tweeted about me this summer. So I was like on Truth, but yeah, and I obviously we follow him, but then he gets reposted on X, so I thought I don't have to. Yeah, I'm on most of them. I think you have to be. And I know what each one wants. Like Blue Sky is like heavy for like, what do we call it? Blue meat. And then, on X they're heavy for like they want red meat, liberal or conservative. And then Instagram is kind of more moderate,
I find
threads.
Instagram is like people with their kids and people baking pies.
Yeah,
That's
Facebook is like a bunch of
package.
boomers, and they can get really like. They're
Don't look at me when
no.
you say
I mean that with respect to all the boomers listening, but they have like, and they're very opinionated on Facebook. They think like the Facebook is like the town hall.
My high school English teacher is on that.
Yeah, so it's like every one of these social media have their own like personalities essentially. I think I'm not on Pinterest. I mean, I use it like to look at things, but I'm not on it. I don't even know if you can post on there. I'm not sure. But this is good enough for now. I'm good with that.
Are you worried that there might be too many different forms of social media?
I don't know.
It seems like you're feeding. It feels like you have so much. You have content,
Right.
and you have so many different audiences that you're trying to push that content out to. So do you have to change what you say to a different audience? Do you change like the posts that you have?
No, I just know like, okay, this is gonna play better on X.
There's
This is
threads.
gonna play
There's
better.
also threads.
Yeah, threads. I know this is gonna play better on Instagram. Like honestly, I get bullied a lot on X, so that it's really
How do you
aggressive.
handle that?
I mean, listen, I'm not impervious to bullying. Like I'm a tough chick, but like I still am not crazy about it. And so, and frankly, like the administration had been bullying me a lot for a while. I was getting messages all the time, and it was more I was worried about like my safety. It's not like I have like, Elon Musk's 5 guards around me at all times. So I wasn't trying to like fan the flames for a little while on X. Although it doesn't mean I was like muting my voice. It was just being more like selective about distributing my content, especially at a time when they would then retweet my content. I'm talking about like Donald Trump's team and then call me names. So I was like, okay, but now I'm back on. So I just felt like it was, and then the people that followed them were attacking me, and I don't have time to find out what threat is real or isn't real. And I'm sure you hear this from network anchors and correspondents. This is a normal thing. So, there are times where certain outlets and certain channels, I choose not to engage with them, but it doesn't change my content. You can find my content anywhere.
As a journalist, do you think it's important to interact with those people that are,
Threatening me?
Not
No.
threatening you, obviously not them, but the people who are commented on your posts or...
Yeah, I do. And like even people who are saying like, you're a hack, I'm like, okay, thanks. Or sometimes today I posted a video with Michael Cohen, and like, listen, I have my own feelings about Michael Cohen. He's Trump's former fixer. When he was Trump's former fixer, he used to attack me like a psychopath, okay? And like, in my conversation with Michael, like I kind of gave it back to him a little bit, but I'm kind of the Bill Maher mind where like, have people from both, well, first of all, I'm always about having people from both sides, but I think like, I don't really believe in like deplatforming people. I think you should talk to them. unless they're like spewing hate speech, which I wouldn't give someone a platform for that, but like, I still think that we can't be in this world where as journalists you can't go there. Like one of my friends interviewed the Taliban. Like, are we not supposed to do that? You know, am I not? If I got the opportunity to interview Laura Loomer, like, should I not interview her? No. Like, she is giving advice to the president of the United States to the point where he was firing his entire national security team. The Taliban, like, we should be finding what one of our gravest threats are. Like, when does it become censorship? Even people who are, you know, spreading hate speech, I want to get in their mind and understand them too if they have influence and if they have power and they have a following. What is it that they're doing? Why are they doing it? And who do they have influence over? I think like we get so caught up in this whole platforming thing and we kind of miss the point. You know?
Is there a level of fear you have when you want to speak to people like that?
Not anymore, and I don't. And not that I ever had fear, but I just think I've gotten stronger in my argument against and push back against that. I think it just took me some time to really think about, like, I've become stronger in pushing back. And
did that take a while, or
no,
was
not
it
really.
You've always, I mean, for as long as I've known you,
yeah, no,
you've been able to push back. At least with me, she's been able to.
Yeah, no, it's different. I'm much more online than I ever was when we first became friends. Like, I've become much more online for last year than I've ever been in my whole life. Frankly, I just started really being truly online in January of last year, of 2024. Like January 1, I ripped the Band-Aid off. I remember it was my New Year's resolution to join TikTok and post my first video, and I was going to post on Instagram every day. Like, I would sometimes post pictures with my friends on Instagram, but they would just be like fun photos out. I did sometimes post my packages from ABC News. I didn't have much of a following. I had a partner at the time who did not want me to post at all on Instagram. He just wanted our lives to be completely private, and I lived with him, so that was kind of difficult. And so it was like it was hard for me. It was really hard for me to decide to like step out. And a lot of people come to me and they're like, I know I have to go on Instagram. I know I have to go on TikTok. How do I do it? And I'm like, I mean, that was more terrifying to me than a lot of than like starting my own business was getting out there. But and I remember I was sitting in front of the phone for hours, just like editing it and figuring it out. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And it's like, I was really intimidated by it, really, really intimidated. And it paid off. I mean, I was able to more than like quadruple my followings, and grow, you know, my own profile, the show. I was able to grow an audience for the show, able to grow an audience that bought subscriptions to Puck, and I don't think I'd be in the position I am today to launch my own venture if I hadn't been growing my profile for the past year. Like, you really can't do it without having some base. And frankly, like, I will say, when I talk to people that want to do work with me, they look at that. They look at how many people you have following you on your socials. They want to know, if we partner with you, can you sell things? You know, what are your numbers like? And what types of people follow you? What's the age? What's the gender? What's the demographic? They want to know if you are influential. Like, being a news influencer is a thing, especially if you're selling products.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you should have done something differently so far in your career?
That's a good question. Yes. I actually, yeah. No. I've thought about this one. I don't think going to ABC News was the right choice for me. I think I should have stayed at Politico and kept my CNN.
Do you want me to hold your mic?
No, it's okay. It's the one in the back. I think I should have stayed. I want to make sure I didn't lose that. No, we're still on. Okay. I think I should have stayed at Politico, and I think I should have stayed at CNN as a contributor, because I was going on TV a lot at CNN. I was able to break news at Politico and then talk about it on CNN. I was building my profile. I was in a space.
You're building your brand.
Yeah, I was building my brand as someone who broke news. And then once I went into a really big network, I thought it was a really big deal at the time. I was like, oh my God, it's network news. You know, millions and millions of people are watching you. And I thought it's a bigger audience than CNN too. And I was like, this is a bigger deal. But the truth is, I could have stayed at CNN and Politico and truly built my brand about who I was, who I deeply am, which is a reporter who likes to investigate and to dig into things and break news. And when I got to ABC, it really became so much about how I looked and how I presented. And they spent so much time trying to fix my presentation and turned me into someone who was acceptable for a mass audience. And like people who watch Good Morning America and World News Tonight, it took like 6 months for me to get on air because they were spending so much time even trying to like change my accent. And I call myself Tara because that's what my mom calls me, but it was like Tara was what one of the coaches suggested, and I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. But there were so many ways in which they were trying to get me to fit a mold of what they already had and what they were used to. They didn't want to take a risk on some scrappy girl from Jersey and see if the audience liked me. They wanted me to fit into what their audience already liked. And the lesson I learned from that is, well, first of all, after I left, I went on to go do a podcast, and one of the first things that my boss, Adam Davidson from NPR, said, and he's been in radio for a long time. He created Planet Money. He's a really, really brilliant guy. He's like, we got to scrub this broadcast voice they gave you. You sound like a man, and you sound robotic. Hi, I'm Tara Palmeri for ABC News. Because like there is a deep bias that people have that when they hear a higher voice, they think that it is not as authoritative as a man's voice, which is lower. So we are sort of like the consultants were like a little, like you coached you to speak a little bit lower, a little breathier. And that was just to appeal to a huge audience, but I don't need a huge audience. The truth is, like in this age, the huge audience is going to go to the people who are being the most authentic to who they are. And I'm not even looking to be broad or mass appeal. I'm not looking to be Walmart. Like I'm just looking to be the shop that I set up. And whoever wants to come to my shop, I will make my products, the best product, the best news product for you. And I'm okay with being niche. So I think that was a mistake for me. Luckily, it took a little bit of time, but I eventually regained my confidence after that period of time where I really did feel like I wasn't myself, trying to fit into a network that I knew I didn't really fit into. And I felt that eventually I sounded like myself again. And I found myself, which is something everybody kind of needs to do. But it happened in my 30s, and what I would say early 30s, like a very consequential time in your career that probably could have been better used advancing my chops as a political reporter. But then again, life is weird. Everything works out for a reason. Having 2 podcasts already set me up for the podcast I have now. Investigating Jeffrey Epstein was some of the most consequential work I think I've ever done. It helped to the evidence we pulled up, the interviews that we did with key witnesses. I mean, I certainly think that it helped to convict Ghislaine Maxwell. I feel really proud about that. That is the crowning achievement of my career more than anything else. So if that detour took me there, then I'm fine with that. But yeah, of course you can look back and be like, yeah, maybe that was the bad. But the funniest thing though, Polson, is that was the one time in my life when I thought, there's no risk here. This is huge. And I was wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes the big shiny object is the thing you want to stay away from in life. And so that was that's the one thing I learned from that. I'd rather build, flash in the pan is never the way to go. And it's but life is weird. And I'm happy that we're here right now.
Yeah,
I don't know that
I think that my final question was going to be, before we go to questions from the students, January 2009, you were standing on the stage at the inauguration, young, just hit yourself in the face, young news associate at CNN, getting ready for the first Obama inauguration. You just graduated from AU early.
Yeah.
But it seems like you answered that question about what's the piece of advice you would give your younger self. Don't go for the shiny object.
Yeah, I think and also everything you think in life that you are going to get or is going to happen will probably not, but something better will happen. I know it's corny and you probably heard it a million times before, but I think that, and the hardest times get you prepared for the better times. And you think it's going to go like this, and then it's going to go like that, and then this step, and then this door is going to open, and that door is going to open, and then it's going to be something totally different, because if you talk to me exactly on that date, first of all, were podcasts a thing? No. We're
Twitter
new.
was in its infancy.
Yeah, I had just joined Twitter, and we were warned, don't tweet anything because you will get fired. And then
That's
we're
still true for many organizations.
exactly. Were newsletters a thing? Was
Yes.
Politico really a thing? No, not really.
Yes. 07.
Yeah, but it hadn't really taken off. It was still a blog.
It was a new
Puck
dawn.
Puck wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Bill Simmons hadn't created The Ringer. Every single thing that I've done since then, and also if you said to me, you're going to be a network White House correspondent by like 31 or 30, I would have said you're high, because that was impossible. I mean, also, I don't think I could have predicted the news business like shrinking the way that it has, and I think that's why my best advice to everyone who is graduating, I think, go out there and take whatever experience you can get and turn it into gold. You know, because that's all you can do, and make friends along the way. You never know, they might be powerful executive directors at CNN.
Look at that photo back there.
Yeah. And you make friends and just like be open to it, because like life is weird, and you really don't know who's going to call you the next day and what's going to open the door. I mean, I read a fortune cookie that said, take the next job you get in the same day. And I know this sounds totally made up, but it's not. And that same day I got a call from the writer at the Washington Examiner, Chris Stirewalt, who was a guest at CNN when I was a guest greeter. And I sheepishly sent him an email with my clips and what I had written at the Eagle and this and that. And I was like, I'm happy to freelance, after the market collapsed during like Bear Stearns market meltdown. And he never even responded to me. I was so mortified that he didn't respond to my email, that every time he came into the building, I asked another person to greet him, because I was so mortified that he did not respond to me. And then he called me like 6 months later and said, hey, I might have that job for you. And I ended up getting this job writing yays and nays, which set up the next thing, It's like, life is so weird. Like, just take the risks, try. And if you do, like, follow through. Always follow through. Half of life is showing up. I would say actually 2/3 of life is showing up.
More than that.
Yeah, just show up. You don't have to be great, good enough, and
Be hungry.
Yes, very hungry.
Sarah Palmeri, ladies and gentlemen. And now we're gonna go to some audience questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said your dad was right-wing and your mom gained citizenship to vote for Bush.
Yeah.
How did you kind of break away from your parents' political views and shape what you are today?
Yeah, my mom voted for Bush, which was surprising to me, because she also voted for Hillary and then Trump and then and then Kamala. She's independent. I was surprised to hear that. But I think she's just someone who votes with her pocketbook, like very much the type of like just independent kind of. I actually grew up in a district that was always red. Mikey Sherrill, though, flipped that seat, and in the blue wave, moderate, blue dog Democrat. So yeah, I'm not really surprised she's probably more typical. My dad is, a lot of Italian Americans are very conservative. It was one of the first. It was one of the first ethnic groups to come out for Trump. I don't understand it, but he does sound like Trump a lot too, like with the Queens accent. My dad's from Hoboken, so he would say, "Oh, they were sweating like a dog," and I'm like, "Dad, you sound." I close my eyes and I listen to some of the things that Trump says, because they're from the same generation. They're just from 6 miles apart. I'm like, "Oh my God, it sounds like my father. This is crazy." Hey.
I have 2 questions. One of them was about the tangent that you went on about authenticity in the news. I wanted to ask, do you think that rising parasocialism is a danger when it comes to trusting news sources, especially if you're getting them from independent or newly established sources?
You said parasocialism?
Yeah. You used the example, was it Gwyneth Paltrow or Anne Hathaway? You named an actress.
Yeah.
Saying they'd rather see her in her house with a little less makeup compared to on the movie screen or on or broadcast. And I feel like there's a distinct level of performance in the two, whether it be talking from like a more emotional, personal stance about what's going on in the world versus the more like polished broadcast, like networking thing that you see?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just disinformation and people pretending to be journalists when they're not, I mean, that is a concern of mine. That's why I actually think that this could be what I am creating, which I hope will one day include more journalists that follow in this path, either through my own organization that I want to grow or others, or through other operations that are like this. Like, I hope that they have actual reporting experience and chops and understand like the rules of reporting and how to report. I see a lot of these like people who are not journalists but sort of playing the role of journalists, sort of like I did as a child, but they're on TikTok and on Instagram, and they say, the Senate is allegedly meeting at 6. It's like, no, the Senate's meeting at 6 because it's on the calendar. There's very like basic skills of reporting that I learned, frankly, over 15 years as a reporter working for many different news organizations. And so I do worry about that, people pretending to be journalists, spreading disinformation through that because they look and feel like journalists or say they're journalists. But there are actually a lot of really good independent investigative journalists out there as well, who seem to know what they're doing and they are able to share their methods and what they're doing. So I'm or some of them take reporting from other journalists and say it's their own, which is concerning to me too. It's obviously stealing. There's a lot that needs to be regulated. Then there's the whole influencer world where there's some of these kind of like political influencers for the right and the left that are being paid for by PACs, okay? So they're being paid by PACs to create content on the web that supports a political party, and it's not disclosed. Unlike if you played it on TV, if it was an ad on TV, you'd have to say this is paid for by the people who hate Donald Trump, or this is paid for by the people who hate, Chuck Schumer. So it's like, we don't have that anymore. This is the wild, wild west of not only journalism, but information in general, and it hasn't been regulated, and it is very concerning. And I hope that I'm trying to, I want to lead an example of raising the standard. Although I will tell you, I struggle with it myself. Like, there are days where I'll post something and the story develops or it changes or I got a word wrong and I'm like, do I pull the whole post down? Do I put a comment? If the New York Times got something wrong, they would put a comment at the bottom of their story and say, we updated it. But what do you do when it's a video? How do you deal with that? So it's like, these are the things that I'm trying to work out as well when we live in this social media world that we live in right now. And yes, disinformation spreads all the time.
And then the second question that I had, you went on a separate tangent talking about how social media journalism or new forms of journalism that are mostly independent are the future. I was wondering what your thoughts on, you mentioned that you wrote from the Eagle, I write at the Black Print, another news journalism organization on campus. I just wanted to know your thoughts about the role of student journalism, especially at AU. I feel like because we're in the capital city, there's so much that gets put on our front door. But do you think that student journalism is going to sort of not be on parallel, but at least trend the same towards national journalism?
I think you should get journalism experience as soon as you can. Like, if you are, any student journalism is important. I mean, any accountability journalism, any experience you have, and yeah, you're in a great place because it doesn't have to just be about your campus and local news. Your local news is national news, so that sort of adds a heightened level of, I guess, importance to what you're doing. But one of the great writers of our time, I will say, despite some scandal around her recently, Olivia Nuzzi, she started writing for I think the Asbury Press in New Jersey at 16 years old, and she wrote such scathing columns that she pissed off Chris Christie, the governor at the time, and he remembered Olivia and every column she wrote as a 16-year-old because she was just so poignant and so on it. And I just think it doesn't matter how old you are. If you can tell a story and you are good at reporting, and your craft is always going to be valuable.
You started talking a little bit about your morning routine. I'm interested in where do you get your news? What's your morning routine? How do you stay involved in, I assume that evolves throughout the day?
Yeah, so I wake up in the morning and I read Axios. That's around my coffee time because it's smart brevity. and it doesn't take as many brain cells. And not to say it's not smart, it is. It's just not. It's just easier. You don't have to sit down for a full story. Then after the coffee has kicked in, I'll read Playbook. I'm a little bit of a political junkie, so I sort of get lost in those two spaces for a little bit. And then by the time I'm done reading Playbook, I'm being hit trying to push my own content out. And then I'm keeping up with the news of the day everywhere else. And honestly, like, Jane keeps me up to date on what's breaking. I get alerts and notifications, but because I'm creating original content, like, it's very hard for me, to be honest, to keep up with news that's breaking throughout the day, all day long. As someone said to me, oh, did you see that RFK Jr. got spoofed by a fake Elon Musk and was asked to go swimming in the pool with him? And I was like, no. I'm like, I can barely keep up with, like, the major stories that are happening. Plus, I'm on the phone with my sources. I'm trying to break stories and then get the background that's already out there. So it's hard, but I like newsletters. They're easy for me. I look on, I look on feeds. Like, X is not quite what it was, but yeah.
Cindy, before you go, can I ask one quick last question of Polson? Polson, I'm curious, you were president of student government, and I'm just wondering here today, I'm just wondering how that influenced your work or what lessons you took from that.
You're so mean to bring that up. No, I was the president
I know
of student
Tara won't
government.
mind because we both
Tara,
wanted to know
this is like
This is a setup,
this
by
is
the
a
way.
setup.
Yeah.
I was student government president here many years ago, and it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. It helped me deal with people. It helped me deal with people in Washington specifically, and because you dealt with a lot of people who thought they were senators and representatives in college, and how to work with people.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
He's become an introvert ever since.
I'll come out next time we have to do this in like 20 years.
Oh gosh. If I'm around then, I'll be so burnt out.
I'll close this off. So just want to say thank you for joining us for this enlightening conversation. Here at Sine, we always say convene, communicate, collaborate, and this goes beyond this room. So please continue these conversations within your class, your community, your friends and neighbors as well. If you want a little bit more Sine in your life, Nadia Murad has her final seminar next Wednesday, Corwin 301 across the lawn. It's on re-traumatization of survivors, shame, and stigma. You can find more information on that event outside. We want to thank the AAU Career Center, the Alumni Office, and the School of Communication. You might be in the room with us today.
Strong crew back there.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up and supporting us, SOC grads. We appreciate that partnership. By the way, you can ask Polson for a job afterwards.
You're hiring, I hear. Yeah.
Yeah, soon. Yeah, once we, the empire grows.
They're trying to
brick by
wrap
brick.
this up right now, but also thank you to Amy Dacey.
Yeah. And then just one last shout for, there was a big thing.